Imagine walking into the lobby of a building, expecting nothing more than a normal day, only to be blindsided by someone who thinks they hold all the power. This is exactly what happened when the main character, a hard-working man who had quietly achieved something life-changing, entered the office lobby one bright morning. He had spent months planning, negotiating, and finally sealing a deal that would change his future forever. But little did anyone know that the quiet figure walking in was no longer just another employee. He was now the rightful owner of the entire building. Still, before that truth could surface, the storm known as Karen was ready to make her presence felt. Karen had been the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA for years, carrying herself with an inflated sense of authority that stretched beyond her actual role. She was known for her sharp words, quick temper, and an uncanny ability to create drama out of thin air. To her, rules were not guidelines, but weapons, and anyone who didn't bend under her constant scrutiny quickly became her target. That morning, the second she saw him step into the lobby, she narrowed her eyes and seized the opportunity to put on a show. Loudly, in front of everyone, she declared that he didn't belong there, that he had been fired and needed to leave immediately. The words echoed through the polished marble space, and people passing by stopped to watch. Some looked shocked, others whispered nervously, but Karen stood tall, feeding on the attention she was receiving. She enjoyed moments like this, moments where she could remind everyone who she thought was in charge. The main character, however, didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice, didn't argue, and didn't reveal his secret. Instead, he simply looked at her with calm eyes, as though her insults and accusations rolled right past him. This silent strength made Karen even angrier. She doubled down, saying he had no authority to be there, that she would call security and have him escorted out, and even claimed that if he didn't leave immediately, she would report him for trespassing. Her arrogance knew no bounds, and the louder she grew, the more uncomfortable the onlookers became. Whispers turned into quiet murmurs of disbelief. Some couldn't believe she was humiliating someone so publicly, while others just shook their heads, knowing Karen's reputation all too well. What Karen didn't know, and what made the entire situation almost ironic, was that the man she was so determined to embarrass and remove was not only supposed to be there, but he now held more power than she could ever imagine. The building was his, every office space, every conference room, every square inch of the property, signed, sealed, and transferred into his ownership. But instead of rushing to reveal this fact, he let her continue, because every word she spoke, every insult she hurled, was digging her deeper into a hole she wouldn't be able to climb out of. Inside, he felt a mixture of sadness and amusement. Sadness that someone could treat others so poorly just to boost their own ego, but amusement because soon the tables would turn in a way Karen would never forget. The atmosphere in the lobby grew heavier as Karen's voice rose higher. She stood with her arms crossed, smirking as if she had already won some invisible battle. She called him lazy, irresponsible, and even mocked his career, saying that people like him would never achieve anything worthwhile. Each word was meant to sting, meant to leave a mark, but instead they only highlighted her own bitterness. The crowd grew restless. People were beginning to feel that this had gone too far, yet still, no one spoke up against her. Karen had intimidated too many people for too long, and the fear of becoming her next target kept them quiet. Finally, after letting her rant long enough, the man decided it was time to set things in motion. He didn't shout, didn't match her anger, but simply pulled a folded envelope from his briefcase and held it up. Karen scoffed, asking if he thought paperwork would save him now, but her laughter quickly faded as he carefully opened the envelope and revealed its contents. Official documents, signed by the previous owners and stamped with legal seals, declaring him the new and sole owner of the building. For the first time that day, Karen's confident expression cracked. She blinked rapidly, her smirk fading into disbelief as her eyes darted between the papers and the man holding them. Gasps rippled through the lobby, people whispering loudly now, unable to hide their shock. The silence from Karen was deafening compared to the noise she had created only moments earlier. The man looked around the room, making sure everyone could see the documents, and then he calmly explained that as the building's new owner, He was more than entitled to be there, and that Karen's attempt to fire him not only made no sense, but had exposed her for the bully she truly was. It was a moment of poetic justice, but it was only the beginning. The look on Karen's face was unforgettable, shock, anger, and disbelief all tangled together as the truth unraveled before her eyes. For years, she had strutted through the neighborhood and the office lobby like she owned every square inch of it. And now she had just learned that the man she tried to humiliate was the actual owner of the building. The gasps from the crowd echoed around her, and instead of admitting defeat, she did what she always did. She pushed harder. Pointing at him, she shouted that the papers were fake, that it was all a setup, and that he was nothing more than a fraud. Her voice shook, not out of confidence, but desperation, yet she still kept going, trying to convince anyone who would listen. Security, who had been standing by quietly, finally stepped forward. They took the documents from the new owner, scanned through them, and quickly recognized the legal seals. With respectful nods, they confirmed his ownership while Karen's cheeks flushed red. But instead of stopping, she lunged forward, trying to grab the documents right out of his hands. The crowd gasped, phones came out recording, and security had to physically stop her. The new owner, calm and steady, didn't raise his voice. Instead, he spoke to the people gathered around, reassuring them that his goal was not revenge or control, but fairness, respect, and community. His words struck a chord, because for years many had suffered in silence under Karen's arrogant rule, and now they finally felt a glimmer of hope. Just then, local authorities arrived, responding to calls from witnesses who feared the situation was spinning out of control. Officers listened as tenants and employees stepped forward, explaining what had just happened. They described Karen's shouting, her threats, and even her attempt to physically attack the new owner. With so many voices backing the same story, the decision was clear. The officers turned to Karen, telling her calmly that she needed to leave with them, but instead of cooperating, she screamed louder, insisting she was the victim, that everyone was conspiring against her. When she tried to shove past the officers, their patience ended. In front of the stunned lobby, they placed her in handcuffs. The room filled with gasps, some murmurs of shock, and even a few relieved smiles. For the first time, Karen wasn't in control. She searched the crowd with desperate eyes, hoping someone would defend her, but not a single person stepped forward. Her reign of intimidation had ended. The new owner watched quietly, not with anger but with relief, knowing that the truth had spoken louder than her arrogance ever could. As Karen was led away, the tension that had long haunted the building seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of peace. Employees and tenants looked at one another with relief, some even clapping softly. The new owner promised that things would be different now. No more bullying, no more unfair treatment, no more fear. Instead, respect and fairness would define the future of the building. The crowd responded with gratitude, shaking his hand, thanking him, and even smiling through tears of relief. At last, the building felt free. It wasn't just about ownership. It was about restoring dignity and proving that arrogance never outlasts truth. Karen's downfall was complete, and the new chapter ahead was filled with hope.